What up, everybody? I'm your host, JP, and this is my co-host, Josh.
Hey, everyone.
And welcome back to another episode of the FilmBros podcast. All right, y'all. So we're here with a movie review for you guys today. But as always, before we jump into this review, if you guys want to talk to us about topics, if you guys want to recommend a movie for us to review, if you guys want to hear us talk about something that you haven't heard before on this podcast, or, you know, you guys want to support us in a big way, Josh, let them know real quick.
Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, FilmBros Podcast. Hit us up there for any news or movies you want us to cover. Listen to us on the go, wherever you get your podcasts, and then support us in a big way. Buzzsprout. The links are in the bios that I just gave you at FilmBros Podcast. You get special perks when you do, so hit us up there.
Yeah. With that, let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, I'm trying to do this episode, but it's hard, man, because I don't know what to do with you. I don't know, because you're like a Band-Aid, right? Yeah, I can either pull you fucking off fucking hard as shit and, you know, it could hurt for a second, or I could do it slowly and, you know, do a little water swab underneath and do it like nice and neatly. I guess we'll just do the Band-Aid, the rip it off quick route. I think that's the best way to do it.
That's the only way to do it with this kind of with
this movie, right?
Yes.
Well, with that, like a Band-Aid, Josh, let them know what we will be reviewing today.
We are reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, 2023.
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm Star-Lord. I formed the Guardians. Met a girl, fell in love. That girl died, but then she came back. Came back a total dick.
Oh, please. You left out some important information, but that is the gist of it.
My sacred mission
Is to create the perfect society.
He didn't want to make things perfect. He just hated things the way they are.
I want you all to know that I'm grateful to fight beside my friends. We were always searching for a family until we found each other.
Are you ready for one last ride?
We'll all fly away together.
Into the forever and beautiful sky.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Oh, man.
Okay, so it was a long time coming.
Yeah.
Right? We've been on this hurdle with James Gunn for a while. DC involved. I mean, we know the story, what happened with Volume 3. He got kicked off by because of Alan Horn, who prematurely basically fired him because of old tweets. They wound up hiring him back on for Volume 3, not before DC was able to scoop him up and get the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker out of him. Volume 3 winds up coming around. He gets the gig at DC. This is his last hurrah, which I personally thought makes sense as a last hurrah movie. I guess my initial thoughts out of this movie was this was the last hurrah for this team. This was the last hurrah for James Gunn. And at the end of it, I felt satisfied. I don't think I felt like excitement. It was kind of bittersweet, I will say, and I think it played with my emotions very, very nicely. But I just felt satisfied. I don't think I have any more as of right now to elaborate on that, but I felt satisfied. What was your initial reaction?
That's cool. My initial reaction, wanted to go in totally unbiased. So DC stuff aside, I was just taking it in as another installment to the Guardians movies. But yeah, by the end of it, I was kind of just like, okay. I don't know. Somewhere along the way, I was just like, yeah, this feels exactly like a James Gunn product. Down to like the humor, some of the acting, some of the more emotional stuff did get me. Like, I didn't cry or nothing, but I was like, okay. Wish
ain't no bitch.
A little bit more on that later. But when it was emotional, it did hold its own. But yeah, by the end, I was kind of more just like, okay, this is also kind of average to me. Like, satisfying for the story to round out.
Here we fucking go.
But at the same time, I felt like it was very average.
Okay.
By the end of it, like another MCU thing.
Like another MCU film at the end of the day.
Yeah.
A lot to unpack there. Well, why do you feel like it was a generic MCU movie? Out of curiosity.
Well, I don't know. It was a lot of just the same stuff we've seen. Like, I know people like to say the Guardians movies stick out a lot more or whatever because, you know, James Gunn gets his freedom or whatever a little bit. He gets a little bit more range, if that makes sense. But I don't know. I think by the end of it, he still plays into that MCU formula, and it's like, okay, well, nothing really came about. Nothing really mattered in the end, so it all just kind of ends, you know,
at the end,
satisfyingly.
The thing is that he gave the MCU its tone. The MCU had its tone prior to Guardians of the Galaxy, but as I've said it before, Guardians of the Galaxy basically set what is the MCU today. So if it feels kind of like MCU-ish, it's because he was a part of that formula that created that MCU feel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in a way, it's not necessarily just his film, because I feel like those elements that you do put into other movies that he created and that Kevin Feige created, when you put it into different projects, is not as good. I think when James Gunn puts it into his projects, and I'd say Volume 3, he put a lot of heart into this project. Mm-hmm. And I think that, because there was some times where I was like, okay, that's typical MCU. But then there was other times where I was like, no, this is him doing a little bit more for this movie, pouring a little bit more into it.
Oh, yeah, which I'm sure he was, because I know what you mean. Like, I felt it too. It's just, it was a lot of like, here's a little bit, you know, from this side, and then, oh, but we can't get too heavy with that because the MCU boat still needs to, you know, keep it moving.
Yeah, obviously.
And
but I think that they did do a lot in this movie that is not typical in the MCU at all. Like, they did do a lot that honestly, I would have never thought they would have touched in Phase 5, let alone Phase 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At this point in time, I was expecting... you know what? Like I said before, this was a streaming movie since the jump. Guardians of the Galaxy to me was never let me go to the theaters immediately. Basically. And that's why I basically waited for it to hit Disney Plus. And
same boat.
When I'm watching it, I'm like, let's be fair. This is a gold nugget in a pile of shit of MCU projects that we were getting, right? I'd say this is a little bit better, or do you feel like this falls in the shit pile with the rest of them?
No, it is a little bit better. Yeah, like not a total mile. You can this is the thing, because I wanted to like dive into that, because while I don't think it's the greatest, it does fine. Like, it's like, to me, it's decent enough. It's a little bit better than some of the other Marvel projects. Honestly, one of the better things to come out in a minute, other than a few shows that I do like in movies. Like, I think this is leagues above Quantumania,
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion, yeah. Like, it has its spot, but it's not the best thing, Holy Grail type shit that people were making it out to be, I think.
Well, I mean, when you're starved, like I said before, when you're starved and they finally feed you like a slice of pizza, that pizza is going to taste like a 5-star banquet, you know what I mean? Which is fine. And I'm not saying that this wasn't close to 5 stars. I'm sure some people really enjoyed this movie, but
some people really did.
We'll unpack it. We'll break it down as time goes on, but I don't want to go too deep into it until we at least give it
the synopsis.
Yeah, it's synopsis is due diligence and whatnot. So, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, written and directed by James Gunn himself, got an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes and 94% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. We saw the return of Chris Pratt, Bradley Cooper, Palm Clementif as Mantis, Dave Bautista as Drax, Karen Gillan as Nebula, Vin Diesel back as Groot. I am Groot. Man, I'm not gonna say his name. It's just a crazy name. But the High Evolutionary. He came out in Peacemaker. He was the alien cop in Peacemaker, but now here he is in James Gunn's project. And Sean Gunn returned as Kraglin. Adam Warlock was in this movie. Will Porter played him.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Pretty stacked cast. I just say off the bat, let's start with characters. I really love what he did with the characters in this one. Really gave him a full arc. I know James Gunn has came out before and said like he doesn't like what happened in Infinity War because he doesn't think Chris Pratt would have been the person, or Star-Lord would have been the person to have created that mess in the first place. But hey, he played ball, and instead of retconning and all that stuff, he made an emotional story with Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana's character. What was her name in the movie? Gamora. So what basically happens? We start off the beginning of the movie. Star-Lord is in a bad spot because he misses Gamora because of the whole losing her, and I think we got a glimpse of that in Love and Thunder and a little bit in the holiday special with him, kind of being bummed of all the events that happened. We move on. Rocket winds up getting pressed on by Adam Warlock himself. They are on a mission to rescue him for what?
I was just all I can think about is that
his entrance.
Stupid flying.
Okay,
scene,
yeah,
man.
okay, all right. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We're on a journey to go get this. Figure out how to save Rocket because nothing works because of the failsafe that was in his heart. They wound up getting to the finding out this is the high evolutionary, but he's also trying to chase Rocket with Adam Warlock's help, and I think that's it, right? And his own people, obviously. We get this emotional story with Rocket throughout the way. If you guys don't really like animal cruelty, we get a little bit of that as well as we go through. Make it to the end, ping, pow, poom. Everybody goes their separate ways by the end of the movie. Sorry, guys, but this is a spoiler review. We always do spoiler reviews. So wound up going their own ways. And then we're set up with a new Guardians team with Kraglin, Cosmo, who else? One of the girls that they rescued off the planet, Will Porter's, Adam Warlock, and Groot as a bigger Groot as well. And et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, cast-wise, I love Nebula. I think she did great. I like the High Evolutionary. I think it's a breath of fresh air that we finally get an evil man just to get an evil dude. I understand that's been used a lot, but at the end of the day, in a Marvel movie, usually, and I think they have a habit of doing this, where they make a villain, they get a little too relatable, and then they just go ahead and kill people just because they're like, hey, well, we got to make them evil again, At least in this one, the consistency was there. He was an evil man since the beginning up until the very end. Rocket's story was very compelling. I will say up until the point where... See, the thing was about Rocket's story is I like the backstory. I like being able to see what happened to him and everything, but once he comes back from the coma, I think they knocked him out of the movie too early. I think we didn't really get to see much besides him helping or talking to Chris Pratt's character in the beginning. And then after that, we're off to the races, and he's basically flashbacks throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
And then eventually we get him at the end of the movie, but then at that point I kind of felt like the time passed. And yeah, it was a little bit of liberation, but in a way I felt like Rocket's story was too on the nose with James Gunn's story. I don't know. That was just my thing too. Yeah. I think that kind of like knowing the outside of what happened with this movie, I think it really just hit like, oh, James Gunn was just telling his journey through Rocket. Yeah. And by the end of it, I was just like, oh, well, I mean, it was emotional. But then once that thought creeped in my head, I was kind of like, oh, yeah. Like if you notice.
Yeah, everything is there. I don't know. I liked Rocket's. Honestly, Rocket to me was one of the more standing out things. I think everything else around him kind of honestly falls kind of short. I didn't really vibe with Adam Warlock. More on that later. Star-Lord, okay, I understand he was sad the whole time, but you're a leader, bro. You should have done more. You know what I mean? Gamora, she honestly, like I said, I thought she was supposed to be blipped out because she was part of Thanos' crew. So either way, either or, she can kind of she could have been in and out in this movie and it would have been fine. But I feel like they were like, oh no, you have to be here because you're part of the other one, so we need you. So they were just like, they threw her a bone and put her in this. I did like Mantis. I liked her. I liked some of what she was saying to Quill, most of her stuff. Drax, again, oh my gosh. There were so many times where I was just like, why is he still here?
That was my thing too. I think that was my complaint with this movie as well. Not only with Adam Warlock, they made him way too fucking goofy and stupid in this one. You got to understand that these were the same people in Volume 2 who were like aggressive. They were smart.
Yeah.
And in this one, they're just the girl's like on her last toes. She doesn't know what she's doing, and it's. But I don't like that Adam Warlock was just like this dummy device and dumbed down. But he sure could hit when he needed to hit, but then he just got stupid again. And then for them to put Dave Bautista in this movie again after multiple times him saying that that he wants better roles, he wants to be taken seriously in his roles, and he wants a little bit more to the script, a little bit more nuance.
Yep.
And they still do him dirty in this movie.
Him so wrong in this movie.
And I get it. He's the punchline, but what's funny is because I know that he was saying that he wanted to get off the ride and stuff like that. So I was assuming that he was going to bite the bullet.
Yeah.
I'm more satisfied that he didn't, because at least we know that he will be kicking out there, and maybe hopefully a director can pick him up and give him a little bit more arc, I guess. But I would have been more unsatisfied at the fact that they would have killed him off the way that he was left off. If we would have seen him the last time as this goofy ass Drax, I would have been like, well, what the fuck was the point?
I don't know. There was a lot of times here, semi spoilers, but there was a lot of times here where they were like playing on Guardians dying and just not following through. I was like, come on, at least Drax, at least let Dave Bautista's character rest.
Yeah, that was a big letdown for me too. Because like I said, if they would have killed him and left him the way that they did, I would have been mad. But at the same time, there was a moment there where I was like, I think it was that basically when it was the guest show with fucking James Gunn and friends. More on that in a little bit. But in that scene when he wound up getting shot with that cannon, and he was bleeding, I was like, oh, this is fucking it. Yeah. Like they're gonna give him the send off that he deserves.
Yes. And it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. And Mantis got shot with it too, and it was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, the inconsistency there was kind of off-putting for me too.
Again, didn't like Star-Lord. Groot, he's just Groot. He can be, he's fine where he's at. I don't really fuck with his design. That's like the most I can say. I don't like that he's bulky. I actually prefer him be like skinny and like long like he was in the first one. The Ravagers, I was expecting a bigger play. I was expecting them to be more involved. The second one had a post-credit scene where it just like put them all up, and I thought it was gonna be like them versus the Guardians or something. So they were kind of another letdown. I did like the High Evolutionary. Now I don't know if I agree that he's the best comic book villain ever. I can argue about who it is another time, but he was cool. Honestly, like he deserves to be on the list for maybe top 10, but the best, not to me. Like it was nice that he was just evil to be evil, but a lot of the time I was just like, yeah, he's more of like he kind of reminded me of Lex Luthor a little bit, where he was just brains and he wasn't really strong or did anything too evil. You know what I mean?
I don't think I'm gonna agree with you with that one. I think he did do some pretty vile shit. I mean, the monologue that he was saying where he was like, oh yeah, when I create a world, if it's not good, I just completely erase it and I start all over again.
That was right. Like there was those things like that where I was like, okay, he deserves to be in the conversation, but I don't know if he's the best.
I wouldn't say he's the best villain. I can't even tell you. I gotta say, best villain, it has to give it to Thanos, but I would say he's up there top 5.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I say top 5 because he was pretty bad.
He was really good at being bad. Yeah. And like that's the thing, because like Thanos, honestly, first or second spot, you can fill in the blanks. But people were trying to compare this guy to Killmonger, and I'm like, I think Killmonger still holds it up.
Killmonger, I don't think you can compare him to that, because Killmonger was one of those people, like I said, where it was like you can almost be behind his cause in a way, I think he's in a different playing field altogether. I think if evil people with just motivation to just be evil, bad guy wise, Winter Soldier at the time.
Oh yeah, before he became good.
Yeah, before he became good, I think he could be in the somewhat conversation with him.
But I really did enjoy Rocket's story most, like, half the time, and it pretty much where it's a flashback scene and like you see him going through his shit. Like I really like those scenes, and it was the scene where heavy spoiler, but there's the scene where he shoots Lila, his girlfriend or whatever, the otter, where I was like, okay, that might make me cry. And then like his friends also go, and then that scene where they're like in heaven or whatever, like a lot of that emotional stuff was good for me. I kind of enjoyed that shit, and then they rip it away, and I'm like, okay, that's right. We still have half the movie to go. We need a big action piece, and then we got it.
Yeah, that big action piece at the end.
But
of the movie.
other than that, I think all the characters, I mean, again, they kind of just did their own thing. I wasn't vibing with half of it. And then by the end, they're all just like, oh, we have our resolution now. And then Peter goes to where he goes. Somewhere along the way, Mantis decides to just end up off the team and go do her own thing. I understand it makes sense for Drax and Nebula to stay on the Ravager thing and make it a new home or whatever. And then Rocket leads, which is fitting because that makes sense. But everyone else kind of just deciding, oh, well, it kind of looks like we don't have to be here no more. So they all decide to just have these arcs and move on.
Okay.
Like, I felt that was out of place a little bit.
When everybody went their own separate ways?
Yeah.
No, because they were hinting at it since the very beginning. Mantis going her own way because, she's trying to figure out where she's really come from. She doesn't really know much besides ego or whatever. Drax, that one was kind of left field but at the same time, well, I guess if you knew about behind the scenes, you knew he wasn't going to make it by the end of the movie. But if you were watching the movie, you're probably confused by like, oh, all of a sudden he just wants to be off the team. That's kind of weird. But hey, if I guess being the father thing and him, have losing his children to Thanos and now him, wanting to help these new kids or whatever, like, I guess in a way it's kind of like a full circle arc for him. So, I mean, it kind of works out. And then Gamora being with the Ravengers, I would have had an issue if she would have kept and stuck around with the Guardians of the Galaxy. But since she went back with the Ravengers, and then I like that this was a different Gamora. So, yeah, she wasn't bonding with them, but her family were the Ravengers. Yeah. So it kind of made sense with that too. But let me paint the picture with the Rocket Raccoon real quick before I forget about it. But because I kind of wanted to, people are probably out there like, what do you mean? Like, it's just mimicking James Gunn's life. All right, so catch this. James Gunn is basically in jail, right? He's in jail because Kevin Feige and Marvel are using his ideas, doing all these things, kind of like the way the raccoon was able to be like, I know what this is. And they squandered it and used it or whatever. High evolutionary is Marvel, whatever. Winds up breaking free, winds up giving a big fuck you at the end of the movie at the big CGI battle and said, hey, I don't need you, whatever. Pushes him off. Winds up going off on his own, recreating his own team, DC, and running off with that team for the near future, which is the new Guardians team at the end of the movie. Yeah. So, I mean, in a way, I get it. You got to draw inspiration from your life, but that shit was, in my opinion, was just a little too on the nose. I don't know if that was too on the nose for anybody else out there. I don't know if you'd noticed that at all or you thought about it during the movie.
By the end of it, I was kind of like, that makes kind of sense. I mean, this was a big like goodbye letter, and not only was it an excuse to have all your friends and all that join in on your party, but it was a big like at the end of it, you can tell that it was just like a lot of, oh, hurrah, like it's over, we won, our story's over, let's move on to the next thing. And then, his next thing is DC. So I was able to paint that picture too. I was kind of just like, yeah, okay. And then they had that whole dance sequence where I was just like, I guess you might as well, As far as everything else goes, I did like Cosmo the most. I loved her. I loved that fucking dog.
You barely even saw that dog in the movie.
Yeah, but still.
I guess the time you did get it
was really good.
Now, I want to talk about that scene with those characters, those specific characters. His friends, his homies. Yes. Nathan Fillion was there. His wife, whatever, Holland.
Yeah.
His other friend, the one with the pink skin, the one in the elevator, that was his homegirl too. I forgot what her name is off the top of my head. I will say right now that scene, though it was funny in the beginning, as soon as I seen these people and as soon as I especially Jennifer Holland, took me completely out of the movie. I don't know if that's a personal thing. I don't know if that's me just being biased towards it, because I think about it, right? And you can call me out if I'm wrong or if I'm being an asshole about it. But I think about it, and I watch Tim Burton's movies, and I don't have an issue with his wife being in there. I don't have an issue with Sam Raimi putting his brother in movies. I don't have an issue with all these things. But and I could watch the movies and just be like, oh, that's his brother, or that's his Tim Burton's wife, or whatever. And then I see Jennifer Holland and stuff like that in James Gunn's products, I'm just like, it takes me out. I'm like, yeah, I know who you are. I know that you're in this movie for that reason. Though I think the only funny scene was when she got shot in the leg, and it was just kind of like, and I think that was when I was like, okay, you kind of brought me back in a little bit, but at the same time, you know, you see her throughout a couple more scenes before we will finally change scenes. And I even think they briefly show her again towards the end of the movie one more time, and then goes back again. But I don't know. Am I being biased? Is that wrong?
It's not really, because like it threw me out too a little bit, because I was like, okay, Nathan Fillion, gotcha. Jennifer Holland's here, whatever, right? Because they just overstay their welcome, if that makes any sense.
Like, it's not a quick cameo.
Yeah.
He actually makes him a prominent role in the scene.
Yeah.
And
at least, like, Sam Raimi's brother, or, again, his best friend, Bruce Campbell, you're just like, oh, hey, that's Bruce Campbell. That's his brother. Haha, little scene here. Doesn't take you out the whole movie. It's not a scene that lasts, like, 20 minutes of the movie, doing action pieces, laughing, doing comedy. Like, that scene for me dragged on a bit, because I was like, you had Peter Quill here trying to smooth talk his way over people, but Gamora was just like, what are you doing, bro? We got shit to do. Like, stop trying to chat. We got shit to be doing. Rocket's dying. He's your best friend. More on that later. But, like, you had that, and it was just dragging on. Then you had Mantis and Drax also dragging it along, because yes, while I understand they are funny, and I did love them in the comedy special, they're the type of dumb where it's just like, where it's kind of just like, okay, like Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum dumb in 21 Jump Street. It reminds me of that.
Dude, I hate in this movie, okay? And I love comedy. Comedy is great. But this is what Adam, what's-his-face, was talking about when we talked about it in the previous episodes. Go check that out. Where he said Marvel basically dumbed down comedy. You want to know why? But because they think talking like this and going back and forth, why are you doing that, Drax? Because I thought it was good or something. And it's like, they yell at each other constantly for gags. And I'm like, it's not funny. Stop yelling at each other. That whole bit where Gamora's like, oh, I'm tired of this. Let me go ahead and, hold the gun. And they're yelling at each other while she's holding somebody hostage and he's yelling at her. I'm like, you guys are wasting more time than her just pulling out the gun and moving it along.
Just put a bullet in this pink bitch's face and move on.
What happened to the Peter Quill in the first two movies? Even in Infinity War, when he was beating on Spider-Man and shit like that, he wasn't worried to pull out his gat. All of a sudden, he has an issue with pulling out his fucking gat.
Oh no, we gotta talk it out. I'm gonna use my heart or whatever. And then by the end, he's like, oh no, I'm not that dumb. And like I swear, if that was all you wanted, you could have just made her do it. Shoot her in the foot, have her work injured, something to give you that tension. Don't make me sit here and think you're trying to make me laugh, because it doesn't work. And while we're on the topic of comedy for a little bit, it got me sometimes. Like, not those bits where they were screaming at each other, but the dumb comedy. Like, the scene that made me laugh kind of hard was they're falling out of the High Evolutionaries thing, and they're like, oh, Quill's inside, and you just hear them scream past.
Yeah.
That kind of made me laugh.
Yeah.
That was the type of dumb where I'm like, okay, that was kind of funny.
I think it was funny, too, when they dropped the dude on the floor, and he kind of dragged him on the floor for a second. Like, just...
There was some moments, but like, it's hard to pick them out because you had the rest of it in your face. Like, laugh at this.
I watched the whole movie, so I had the whole context. That F-bomb, uncalled for.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's like, get the fuck in the car. Yeah.
It wasn't even like.
And then it's followed by oh Peter Quill can't drive. Oh, like what the fuck. I'm sorry, dude. Like, yes, we understand he wouldn't be able to drive, but why would you recommend that thing?
I know it's in the trailer, but I like the scene, too, where, like, he throws a ball at the kid. He's just like, Pew.
I mean, you no harm. I mean, like, throws the ball at the kid.
That shit was funny. That shit was kind of funny. Yeah, man. The comedy in this one was pretty good. It's just, I think the comedy where they were just yelling at each other, I just couldn't handle. I think that them going back and forth.
A lot of it was
just too much.
Just very cringe. Like, the scene where he's like, I want to go to that ship. And then Mantis is like, no, we were told to stay here. And he was like, I know. So get on and we'll ride back to the ship. And she's like, but it's right there.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's what I mean. And then they take off and she's like, you jerk. And they were like, that wasn't like, come on now.
Couldn't you have just tapped them and told them to go to the car, to the ship?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we don't think too hard in these movies sometimes, so it is what it is. But plot-wise. Now, using Rocket as a plot, very effective. Using the relationship between Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana's character, Gamora, and Star-Lord, well done. I think it gets overstuffed when having to try to put in Adam Warlock in them. I get that it was meant to build some kind of tension, like somebody was behind them, but, I mean, what kind of tension can you really put on the plot when he's a complete idiot and a dumbass?
It's tough, because I can't remember. Like, this is why I told you if I should watch the other ones before it, and I know I should have, but I kind of didn't want to, but in the second one, I don't think I know they mention it because obviously it's Rocket's backstory or whatever. But again, he never talks about it. So how are we supposed to believe that the High Evolutionary built those golden people when they were meant to just be like a higher form of society or something like that? Like they paid the Guardians. You know what I mean? That's when they like the last time we seen Adam Warlock in that little tube.
In the second one.
Yeah, in the tube, like in the post-credit scene.
Well, I mean, if he did make them, it makes sense why he was able to control them and why he was able to like destroy them. But it does become a hiccup when it's like, okay, well, they basically fucked up that whole planet, so why didn't he come out of hiding even sooner and be like, oh, Rocket's right there, you know what I mean?
Should have. I think Adam Warlock deserves to be a bigger figure, and dumbing him down and calling him a child and making him this dummy, it really shows you about where they want to go with the rest of it, because they did this to Drax. They've been doing it to Mantis. Adam Warlock is next. Like it doesn't work. It threw me out so many times where he spoke because I was like, I guess
they just dumbed them too much.
Yeah,
it was just too dumb, and you can't have an evil person with all these powers and just be dumb. Mm-hmm. I will say that gag was funny where he was like, Adam, make him talk, and he just like blasts the shit out of him, and he's just like,
he burned his ass.
How are we supposed to get information out of him now? I was like, okay, that was kind of funny. And then the beeper I thought it was stupid when she was just able to be like, oh, what's your location? And Gamora was
dude,
like,
I was
like, are you really not gonna know that wasn't his comm or the way he speaks?
Exactly. You're not gonna question about who the fuck that is. You're telling me that you rode with them for how long? Like, I know Sylvester Stallone's voice when I hear it. That shit threw me out too.
But just keep it pushing, man. Don't think too much about it too hard. Because
I did like a few. Nah, no, that's a lie. I only like that one scene where Adam Warlock kind of rips off that War Pig's face, where she's like, "Oh, we're working for the same side," and he's like, "Yeah, but I need the credit." And then she like tries to attack him, and he just snaps her fucking neck.
Yeah,
I kind of like that. That was cool.
Yeah, well, because I mean that was him being ruthless. But if they would have done that, where he wasn't this dumbass goofy guy, and
should have been more to it,
ruthless and just wanted to get Rocket, like how much more tension would it have built if they barely escaped with their lives in the beginning, and they still have to save Rocket, but Homeboy's on their ass like in a quickness, instead of, oh yeah, we easily beat him because he's a fucking idiot, and look at him just skirt off into the sunset. Like, why would he even leave if they still need it, if he didn't even get the product that he was there for?
No idea.
Because he thought he killed him?
Half the Guardians were dumb, and I don't know where the fuck they think they can pull it off to where or at least me believe that Drax is this muscly guy, because they rarely show that shit, but apparently he can show up and show out against Adam Warlock when necessary.
Well, he's supposed to be Drax the Destroyer. He should be able to...
The Drax the Destroyer.
Yeah, he should be able to go toe-to-toe with him. Now, I don't know how much... I think Drax will get his ass beat by him if a one-on-one fight, but he could still kind of hold his own.
Adam Warlock should have, it just makes you think about it. He should have killed him in the beginning. Put that stake there just because.
Adam Warlock should have had Drax?
He should have fucking had him.
That would have been a way to, like, start the movie, too.
Exactly. And then, have it play out the same. Just have Drax go, and then, eye for an eye type shit. Because you took Drax, kill Adam Warlock. Or think you killed Adam Warlock. There's a lot of ways that they could have went about that shit. But but plot wise, it does solid enough. There's enough emotional tension there between Rocket and the High Evolutionary where I'm just like, okay, where it kept me more invested than anything to see that kind of conclude.
Okay, all right. What about the score, the music, the soundtrack? I loved it. I get it. It's more poppy and mainstream stuff, but I really every song that Okay, let me rephrase, because and then you guys are gonna think that I'm praising this movie too much, because that's not the case. The thing, okay, so I like the music and I like the music choices. The problem was that there are so many in there. It's like I was watching a music video every so often. I was sitting in the beginning, it was like a music video, and then you have some dialogue and you have some action and blah blah blah, and then boom, another music video. And then, you're back to it. And I swear, every single song was like 3-minute increments. Like, you're literally listening to the whole damn tape. And though they did hit, and I do give him props because he at least let you simmer in them. But I think he let you simmer way too long in the music, because at that point, I'm like, every single time music would just pop on, I'm like, damn, here comes another music video. Well, the beginning where Adam Warlock comes in, boom, doom, 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 doom. It's like, and that was like a whole minute and a half of him just flying with that music. Yeah. What am I supposed to think about that? You know? But I did like the music. I think he picked fabulous music. I think even that last one, I know Florence and the Machine, she reacted to it, the song Dog Days Are Over. Fucking loved it. I thought it was a beautiful song to play with an emotional ending like that. But like I said, music video 100%. Like I was watching a good chunks of like music videos.
Here's the thing about the music. Now, I might get hate for this, but that's a lot of music for a movie where I just feel like it's unnecessary. Like you get music in movies and you're just like, okay, I know this song. That's it, and it's usually like before a big action piece, they're gearing up, you know, Linkin Park, whatever the fuck, right? This one, like you said, had music all the time, and I'm just like, well, yeah, I know that song, very cool song, but I honestly do away with it because it was distracting half the time to me, like.
It got distracting because it got too long.
Yeah, and I'm just like, well, okay, but yeah, a lot of this movie was just here's a song here, boom, bang, pow, joke, 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 another song. Like it was hard to take it seriously, especially because a lot of it was used to transition into rocket scenes, and you're just like, are you just trying to lighten, like, soften the blow or something? Because it really doesn't do that. It takes me out.
The music? No, because I think sometimes he used the music to kind of make you sit in it for a little bit, and I think he thought since we had to sit in it for this one, we also have to sit in it for this one. But instead of just being like, nah, let's well proportion this out, they don't have to sit in silence with this one for too long. Like we can keep it moving. Then I think we would have had a better pacing. But it was just, I kid you not, I felt like 3-minute increment song montages, and it was just it was too much.
I don't know.
And there's this one scene too, and it doesn't have to do with music. I just thought about it, but it was that scene with like Zoe, Gamora, and Pratt, and he was trying to like talk to her and be, you know, snap her out of it and show that he loves her, and then it was completely gagged by doing that whole, oh, you know, we can all hear you, right? Oh, and then like Mantis screaming like, oh, can you hear me or whatever, and I was like, yeah, no. And then after that, that's when we go into another scene with music. That's what made me like remember it. But like it's stuff like that where it was just repetitive, where it was like
it's so unserious.
Try to get heartfelt, gets unserious, wash it down with music or something terrible emotional comedy. Or whatever, or terrible comedy, whatever it may be.
That whole scene, that whole scene was dumb. And yeah, a lot of the music, great choice, but it just overstayed its welcome.
100%. I think if he would have not let us sit in it for so long, I still like the music choices though. I'm a music head. I love music. I love when they play songs where I can just be like, fuck yeah, like in the middle of the... If I watched this in theaters, I would have been like, hell yeah. Like I probably would have been able to soak in it a little bit better because it would have been immersive, you know, all around me.
Yeah.
But watching it at home and having to listen to it, like, though I did like it, it was just too much. And I will say to that point, I think that's what made the movie kind of drag a little bit more too. Because there was a point where I was like, this movie's still not over yet. Like, it's still going on. How long is this movie?
I thought it was it's 2 hours and something. Some change.
2 hours and some change? Yeah. That's a long fucking time.
I think the longest piece to last, not just the beginning, but the ending, where they're all dancing. It's like a party. I think those two scenes kind of overstayed their welcome the most.
I understood the last one, the Dog Days Is Over, because they were showing everybody and they were trying to make you soak in and feel it. That one is one of the ones that I understood. But there was a few of them, like I said, the Adam Warlock one, that one was kind of like, why would you let us sit on that for so long?
Yeah.
I understand when there's not really a lot of dialogue when after they already prepped to go on that one planet where it's all like organic or whatever, but that whole when they're jumping on top of it and when they're getting ready to set up to actually get into the dialogue, that whole scene was just a long music video too.
Yeah, but other than that, the music was good selection all around. I'm pretty sure it just overstayed its welcome sometimes.
How'd you feel about the ending where we heard Groot say I love you guys?
So without context, I'm sure that shit would have made me laugh. But with context, it's kind of like, okay, that's cool. I still wish somewhere along the way you would have said that in the movie, like not use outside text to be like, oh no, that is what we meant. But no, it would have threw me off completely if I didn't know that the outside context.
Oh, the whole that's the audience getting the idea that. Yeah, I think a better way to have conveyed that if he would have said that, and then in the bottom some subtitle said "I am Groot."
Yeah, something like that.
That would have made a little bit more. But yeah, the context. I personally liked it. It was just kind of awkward hearing Vin Diesel talk out of Groot. I know he is I am Groot, and I know you can hear that his voice, but when I actually heard him talk, I was just like,
Dominic Toretto?
He found a new family.
Hop in my space charger.
Right before the dam was about to crash the car, a beam picked him up and he became Groot. And left his kid to die. Sad days. Yeah, the ending with that one kind of made me feel like, fitting ending, I guess. It made sense, but it was just awkward with Vin Diesel coming out his lips. Fight scenes. What did we think about the fight scenes in this movie? I did enjoy the hallway fight scene in this movie. Everything else was kind of dog shit. Not dog shit. I don't want to say dog shit.
I'll say it. That shit was... They were ass. A lot of these fight scenes were ass.
The hallway fight scene was cool, and the high evolutionary throne room one was pretty cool too. But if you notice, all the ones that are like cool were the ones where they had a lot of CGI involved, because that's when you're able to get the precision and whatever and blah blah blah. But then when you had those fights where Raccoon with Adam Warlock and they were going through windows and stuff like that, I get it. It just wasn't that great.
They were shot oddly too. Like I know that's a whole different topic, but honestly, the camera movement for each action scene really threw me off. I was like, that is certainly a choice to move your camera in that direction, but sure.
It had James Wan Suicide Squad vibes. I don't know what they were going for, because they had that swingy camera motion, especially in the hallway fight scene and in the high evolutionary room. I don't know if he was trying something different. I don't know if he wanted, because in the Suicide Squad he had good fight scenes. At least I know the Rick Flag and John Cena's fight scene was actually pretty decent. That whole helmet scene where he was able to rotate that was actually pretty genius. And I'll give you some kind of props for that, James. But the hallway fight scene, there was a lot of swinging motion. It's just, I think it was just all the CGI that really made it wonky. I think that's the issue with this movie, is that the CGI and maybe the lack of camera too.
So many cuts.
Because even when they were like, I seen the clip with Adam Warlock flying through and everybody was like, oh, Superman Legacy finna be fire with these fight scenes. I'm like, they didn't do much. And honestly, the goofiest entrance to any superhero who could fly was Adam Warlock's entrance, where he was just I was like, bro, like,
that shit was mad goofy. How do you arguably your most powerful character in the MCU besides, well, what's her name from Secret Invasion, looking goofy as shit, my guy. And then even when that scene that you were talking about where he's flying through, again, that Black Adam face in the camera type shit, and then he's just like mother, and then boom, like it like that shit kind of made me laugh because of how dumb it looked.
Yeah, he was almost there too. He just didn't make it in time.
It just wasn't fast enough. But I don't know. I think the fight scenes were kind of lacking, and what threw me out was the camera work, because a lot of it was just like, that's interesting decision to do that, and then it would be a cut. So it's like he wanted to have free range again, but cuts were just everywhere in those fucking scenes. But that's more of a grander scheme.
It had to be editing wide and just to make it work smoother. Yeah. And I get it. It is what it is with that one, but I think the fight scenes could have been a little bit better, but at the end of the day, I've seen what James Gunn can do with fight scenes, so that I think that had to be with budget or like Marvel decisions, because don't get me wrong, I've seen better action out of him, and I think he can do pretty decent action. It's just what kind of work he can work with. I mean, what did we get in the second one? Did we get a fight scene in that one? Oh, with Eagle in them? That one's kind of whack.
I don't know.
The only one I could think of is the Peacemaker and Rick Flag one.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, the fight scenes were just kind of again. The only cool thing I really enjoyed were the that scene with him ripping off that pig's head. And that's about it. Other than the two you mentioned already, but I mean, the way he decided to use the camera work to smash them through windows and stuff, it threw me out because I was like, that looks funky.
Yeah, he didn't make good calls with some of those things. Yeah, but I will say, like I said, the hallway fight scene for sure. The high evolutionary fight scene in the courtroom or in his room was pretty good too. I'm trying to think of what other fight scenes were in there. I mean, there was the one in the beginning, but they got all thrashed really quick. Same thing in that other one. At the end, there was one scene where it kind of threw me off because they were like in a ship and they like punched through the glass of the ship, but they were still in space. And he was basically about to get punched, but then the arm goes back out, and I thought he was going to get like sucked into the vacuum of space, but he never did. And the lack of balls to not kill Chris Pratt's character, Star-Lord, was an issue too, because I thought that we're going to lose him at the end of the movie. It just seemed like they could not pull the trigger. Yeah. It's like every single one of them, they were this close to just being like,
and they just couldn't follow through.
Like, not today.
Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah, they just couldn't follow through. Because again, I thought he was going to die. That would have been A1 for sure.
That would have been poetic because of how Yondu died.
Yeah.
And that would have been
like
great.
He got everyone else to safety and he just dies.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would have been fine. Would have been really dumb to have his reason to die being that he was going back for his little iPod, but you gotta take what you can.
it would have been fitting in my opinion because he loves that thing. That was his thing.
Again, Drax should have bit the dust. I don't really care if Mantis dies or not. Rocket, if he would have died, I know he's like the leader now, but if he would have died, that shit would have hurt too. Like him and the High Evolutionary take each other out, that shit would have been sick.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, a lot of it was just like, oh, are they gonna do it? And then they done do it. It kind of reminds me of that scene where kind of the dude from that scene in Hot Tub Time Machine where it's like, oh, is this when he loses his arm? And he just doesn't lose his arm.
Yeah, yeah, exactly that. And let's talk about world building, okay? Because we are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like this movie helped build up more, I guess, a bigger world, or was it more self-contained for you?
Definitely self-contained. I mean, they did it out in space. And while we do know Captain Marvel and Nick Fury are out there somewhere, a lot of it is just like, well, okay, but we don't know where they are exactly, so they're able to just play ball in the ocean that is space, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So they can go off to a planet in the middle of fucking nowhere, fuck off, and then, everyone else would be like, oh, we don't even know that
That's
existed.
basically been all of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Yeah.
I think the only one that was actually connected to the other ones was the first one, and that was only because of the stone.
Yeah.
But after that, the second one wasn't a part of it. They showed up in Infinity War.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing tying them around to each other. I feel like the only thing that kind of did that though was the Nova Corps. But since the Nova Corps is gone, there's no one to regulate them because they're the ones that were kind of keeping them in line.
Yeah, they were supposed to be like the police.
Yeah.
And there's no police anymore.
Exactly.
So everybody's just doing what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Way to go.
I mean, definitely self-contained and like a real cheap shot to do it on a world, on a counter Earth, as they put it, because like I know that would have caused trouble and they would have had to address it somewhere down the line, kind of like
if it was regular Earth.
Yeah, but if it was like that just means that they should have done something different. Why use a different Earth? Like, why use a made-up Earth?
It makes sense in the movie because of the way he said that he tries to strive for the perfect society. And he saw how Earth wasn't the perfect society, so he wanted to build upon it and make it perfect.
Besides what did you say? Hierarchy and the bigotry?
Yeah.
That was dumb.
He said, he's like, oh yeah, this is the better planet. You have rabbits doing crack in the alleyway. Oh, like, what the fuck? That is true. That's exactly what he saw.
Rabbits selling people with roach heads crack or whatever.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? Odd movie for sure. James Gunn movie for sure.
I didn't like the idea of taking away their hostility.
Oh yeah, because of the experiments and stuff.
Like I like that, but at the end of but like that's why it was kind of fitting because Rocket, although they were trying to do that with Rocket and he played it off well, we were like, well, he's still aggressive, and they show that he's still capable of that aggression when he does the High Evolutionary's face, and obviously throughout the other movies, because that's supposed to be prequel, right? But like, yeah, I thought it was sad as fuck when because I was like, I had to rewatch it because I was like, wait, why you had 3 guards there? Were you telling me they all missed Rocket? But then I was like, oh, it's because they shot his friends, and I was like, that's
they aimed for them, and I was like, damn, bro, because I think they thought the High Evolutionary was gonna get Rocket.
Well, yeah, they were probably gonna. Well, yeah, I mean, he said to preserve it or whatever because of his brain.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, sad movie, sad stuff. I thought when it got sad, it got sad. I can't say that it didn't. I can't play it off and be like, this movie sucked, because it didn't suck.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the characters. I enjoyed the music that was in there. I enjoyed the chemistry. I loved the Gamora and Star-Lord situation that was happening. Didn't like what they did with Drax, but I mean, it might as well just end it there.
Might as well.
Mantis, I love Mantis as well. It's like I said, this is very much a James Gunn movie in an MCU format, and this is very much his stamp and him leaving the Marvel universe on his own terms.
Basically, yeah.
Anything else that you have to add for this movie?
Are we getting into the pros and cons? Like, I know,
basically,
I feel like we've. I've been shitting on it.
I think so too, and I'm trying to like pry some good out of you. It's just you're not giving.
It's tough. It's tough.
So what is the good stuff out of this movie that you liked?
Rocket and his story. I honestly wish that would have been the main focus, either that or change the concept entirely. Because while I do love that, it's just another them doing nothing.
But he was the main story.
Oh, but that's what I mean. Like, it just wasn't too fulfilling to me for some reason. Like, I don't know what it was.
I'm telling you, I think it's just the ending. I think it's the fact that he was it was literally flashbacks throughout the movie. It wasn't even Rocket.
Yeah.
You seen him in one scene in the beginning, and then he was kaput the rest. And yeah, you seen him in Infinity War and Endgame, but he wasn't that prominent role in 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And to put all your chips on him and not have him throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
You didn't even have him being sad for anybody. You didn't have him help Chris Pratt a lot in the beginning, because he kind of just walked in and it was just kind of like a fuck you kind of thing, and then walked out. There wasn't really nothing there to make you be like, that's sad. I'm sad for him getting down. And then you get the flashbacks and you're like, I'm very sad for him.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, you're just like, well,
good for him.
Yeah, that's good for him. Like, he's gonna go ahead and he's gonna do what he has to do, and it was just that.
Like, that's what I mean. Like, there should have been more about all that rather than keeping him in a coma, because at that point I'm just like, well, and now I feel unsatisfied. Like, yeah, he got his justice, but there should have been something else. I don't know what it was exactly. Either that or have them do just have them do Guardians things, like a mission or something.
I think if they would have played the same route, if they wanted to play it that way, the same route, if when he was in a coma, it wasn't just pure flashbacks, but him battling it out with the evolutionary in his mind. I think that would have made for a more explosive ending, because at that point, you had him traumatized from the beginning. You can't really, you can't tell me that he gave a shit about what the High Evolutionary did to him, when in the first one, he never even worried about it. The second one, he never worried about it. Infinity War, Endgame happened. Nothing was worried about it. And between Infinity War and Endgame, that was a 5-year gap. And the Evolutionary, nor did Adam Warlock come out and try to stop him. Why? Was that on hold because half the universe was gone? What the fuck? So it doesn't really, you're watching the movie, and in the moment it kind of hits, but then you think about it and you're like, no, because then where was he? Why wasn't he hinted at before? And why was Rocket able to walk along this whole time? If they would have explained that through flashbacks or memory, like I said, if he was battling it with the High Evolutionary and be like, why are you creeping back into my head after all this time? And it's because boom, 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 whatever.
Big conflict.
It would have made it a bigger issue.
Yeah, not the team plays Scooby Doo for a cool second. But honestly, yeah, I really like those scenes, the heartfelt scenes. A lot of it was really good. Again, like I said, there probably isn't a lot I do enjoy. Did like Cosmo, said that already. But she was just, every time she was on, I was just like, okay. She kind of made me laugh. But she was just like, I'm a good dog.
Yeah.
Like she was.
Take that back.
She was cute. She was cute.
Yeah.
Didn't like. I can already hear it.
Pros.
There is no pros.
Give me a pro.
Oh.
And then you can go ahead and give me that con right now.
Okay. One pro.
A pro.
The one that we haven't said already.
But yeah, a pro.
Damn.
I guess
The CGI between the animals and honestly their friendship
was great in this one. The CGI in this Marvel product.
Yeah, it was actually
fantastic.
They did really well there. And then like not like even with the bunny. I know James Gunn released some of the artwork for or some of the CGI models for these characters, like the bunny, Floor, her name was, and then Teeth's, and then Rocket and Lila. Yeah, their dynamic was cute. Sucks I had to see them go like that. It really pulled on my heartstrings a little bit, but like they were nice. But now for my con. You can say what you want, but I really hated seeing Sean Gunn, man. He was probably the most annoying thing out of this movie besides Drax and Mantis's little spites.
I think so too. I really hated that whole side plot where he was trying to figure out how to use the arrow.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the end of the movie when he got that seal of approval where it's like from Michael Rooker's Yondu. I was like, why didn't they I don't know. I didn't like that whole subplot for sure. I thought he was able to use it in episode 2 at the end of the movie. I swear he was practicing with it and he was able to do stuff with it.
He was I think it shows you briefly him like lifting it up. I don't know how well he was using it.
I didn't like that subplot.
What Yondu did in the first one with it was sick as fuck, but that doesn't turn into the fact that it's such a lazy device to be like, oh, we don't need artillery because a one-man army can do it.
Oh, yeah.
And like they even play on that in the end credit scene. Did you see that?
Oh, when he was like, oh, I got this, take a load off or whatever.
He's like, no, I think it'd be quicker if we all do it together. And it's just like, see, you just kind of proved my point where it's like, he can do it by himself, but teamwork.
Well, in a way, it is kind of cheap because he can easily just the amount of robots that he took down, or animal robots, when they were like invading was crazy. And that was him just finally having the courage to do it and do it right. So I know, like I said, pros for me, this movie was good. I enjoyed it. There was some cons. I think the music was too long. I think they let us soak in it for too much. Will I say this is the best movie in Phase 5 so far? Yes. Will I say this is the best movie since Endgame? Fuck yes. 100%. Best movie since Endgame.
No.
100%. That Marvel produced, best movie since Endgame.
No.
What movie was better than this one that came after Endgame?
No Way Home.
Let's not use Sony.
That's not fair. What the fuck? Way to move the goalposts.
Yeah, no. Let's not use Sony.
Multiverse of Madness. That's one for me.
You would prefer that one over this one?
Wakanda Forever. Would prefer that one over this one.
No, that one was not good either.
I
would say it rivals Shang-Chi. Because I thought for a good chunk of time,
Shang-Chi
for a good chunk of time, Shang-Chi was like the best out of Phase 4 for me. But I would say this one kind of beats it out. And only because of the emotional aspect. And Shang-Chi had the same thing, but this one, I don't know. Maybe because I've seen all the movies. Maybe because, we've seen what happened with Infinity War. I honestly believe it was the Gamora and Star-Lord relationship that really nudged it for me.
I just wish there was more. Like, I wish they could pick a lane. Like, I know you got side characters, and juggling 5 of them is tough. Especially when you already are taking sacrifices with Drax and Mantis and not really giving them development. Like, I get it. Some characters have to be sidelined. They did it to Quill because he had 2 movies of being the main character. It's just a lot of like picking and choosing, and like if you were gonna have that emotionalness with Gamora, like I said, pick a lane. Like do or don't. Don't play with it. By the end, where she's like, "Oh, I bet we were fun," like that was cute, but I just wish there was more.
No, that was enough. I think that was perfect.
No.
I think you're picking at straws right now.
Mm-mm.
I think you're trying to find a reason to hate this movie, but I don't think that there's a reason because to be honest, for it being his last film within the MCU, this is something that you can tell he poured a lot of feeling into. Like I said, even down to Rocket's very parallel life that compared to James Gunn. Like I said, character arcs and all. Yeah, some people had to bite the bullet. It sucks it had to be the same people that we thought were gonna actually get some change, but that didn't happen at all. I don't know. I can't say that I hate this movie, though.
I don't hate it.
I can't say that it's like I can't even find reasons to hate it either. I think this was a well-made product, and I guess that can kind of before we give it the ranking, I guess that can kind of lead to kind of like my speculation and theory. Do you think, after watching this movie, that we can get potentially a good Superman legacy film out of James Gunn? Think about all the emotional aspects he put into this movie. Maybe the fight scenes and stuff could probably use a little bit of help. Hire a stunt coordinator. Not too hard to do. I personally can give this Superman Legacy a little bit more faith, I guess, in the emotional spots. Fighting, I really got to see. I got to see something out of fighting because to me, Superman's going to be coming out and Man of Steel really set the bar. And the flight scenes that we saw in this movie really didn't do anything for me at all. I thought they were goofy and lackluster and retarded. So that's a bad word to say. I thought they were dumb. Scratch that off. Okay, scratch off the retarded. 1, 2, 3. I just don't. I don't think that. I don't think that there's too much to drag. But I do think that we might get a good Superman.
It's the thing because I don't know, man. I don't know where you can go with after Man of Steel. It's a tough bar for me. The emotional aspects, sure, yes, maybe he can do better than what we've seen before, but everything else weighs in. You know what I mean? You can't just like. I know it's gonna sound kind of hypocritical, but there's a lot more than just emotional scenes in a movie to carry it, especially for a Superman movie, like someone of that caliber. You know what I mean?
I know fight scenes and everything are gonna go into it, but at the end of the day, I guess emotional storytelling wise,
yeah,
we can probably have it in the bag. I will admit we can do a little bit better with the fighting. Like I said, stunt coordinator, something can probably be used.
A little bit. I will say, yeah, a little bit is there, but like it's very fleeting because I still know it's James Gunn and his products, and I've seen him handle DC. And honestly, not judging besides the emotional aspects, his comedy, his friends, all this that he decides to put into his films. That isn't a final film like this.
Yeah,
the circumstances are different.
But I'm not. I'm just asking you, I guess, from storytelling perspective when it comes to this movie.
There's a chance.
You have a little bit of hope.
There's a chance.
Yeah. Let's push everything else aside. Like I said, biases all aside. If you were to watch this movie and be like, "Hey, James Gunn, the creator of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, is also going to be making a Superman movie," how would you feel?
Ew, no.
If that were to happen to me,
it'd be decent.
Yeah, I'd say
there's
he
a
has
decent
shot.
chance.
I'd say, look at the flight scenes and tell me he doesn't need a stunt coordinator. Like
sure.
that I for sure 100%. But I guess if there's nothing nice for you to say about this movie, I guess we're at the point where
I said nice things about it.
You gave some nice things, okay, and I think you're being a little bit of a hater. But
No.
Listen, I think you're being a little bit of a hater, but I will let it pass because I get that you have personal beef with this man. I don't know why, but you do, and that's fine. But I think that you're having some personal biases.
Mm-mm. Oh no, because I try to leave it all at the door.
Try?
I did.
Keyword?
Well, I did. It's just
you did try.
It's just I did leave it at the door. It's just there's a lot more.
There is no try.
There's a lot of like things here that just don't mix well, and I don't really vibe with, and it's the same James Gunn stamp, and what he does do just doesn't outweigh that. And it's tough because I didn't want to hate this film either. I didn't want to. I don't want to go into the movie thinking, oh, this is just another product by so and so, I know I'm gonna hate it already. Like I don't want to do that. But if
you do it anyway.
If you're showing me the same shit, of course I'm gonna be like, oh, that's just this, baked differently, shaped differently, whatever the fuck. That's just how it goes, and it really makes me think sometimes, like yeah, some people can like it, you can like it, whatever, but like I'm just not gonna vibe with it. That's it.
I think it's the lack of giving it a chance.
No, I gave it a chance.
Because even the way you
watching it is giving it a chance.
Because even the way you worded it, where you're like, I'll try. And you could say, oh, like, what I meant was no, but you said it the first time. So it already tells you that you already have some kind of, like you said, too. If you see something always, you're already going to have in your mental what you believe you're going to see in the next one. And you're already going to make expectations for yourself. Now, there is movies where you can go into and you make expectations, and then you go into it and they completely go the opposite way. And you're like, wow, they did not do anything I thought they were going to do. And that was fucking crazy. Mm-hmm. Or you could look at it and be like, wow, they did some dumb decisions. I would have preferred they would have done what I was thinking they were going to do anyways. But I think that is that mentality of you going into a movie thinking that I already know what I'm going to get. So, you know, this is for sure what I'm going to get. I know for a fact that whatever he's going to do in the future with Superman Legacy is going to be completely different than what he did with this movie. I know what he did with this movie is completely different what he did with the second movie. And the second one is completely different than he did with the first one. Yeah, there is some elements that still stay the same because it is made by the same person. But I can differentiate and say, hey, he did do a little bit different in this one. And I'd say, like I said, arguably the best movie to have come out in the past couple phases. Arguably the best one of the trilogy.
I don't know about that one. Like if I could rank them right out the gate, 1, 3, 2. I think 2 is the last one.
I think you get a little bit more emotional depth with this one and a little bit less gag pulling you out of it, because as much as I like the first one and I think it's near perfect, that whole dance battle, bro, is the fucking killer.
Can't win them all.
Yeah, that's the fucking killer.
But ranking anyway.
Yeah, so where would you put, from a scale of 1 to 10, where'd you put this? 10 being the best, 1 being the worst?
It's not the worst thing ever. It's not like The Flash.
Swear to God, if you give it a hater ass number, I'm gonna be mad. Okay, go.
How about you just let me finish my thing?
Okay, go.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the worst thing ever. Even if you think I'm sounding harsh as fuck, it's not the worst thing ever. There is definitely worse. At the same time, though, I feel like this isn't the bread and butter that everyone thinks it is. For sure, I don't think it's the best thing since Endgame, honestly. But there is some rewatch value in it. Like, if I decide to go back and watch all 3 again, I honestly, yeah, the third one would definitely wash out the second one for sure. It's better than average, but again, not the best. I'd give it like a 7.5.
I can get behind that. I'm okay with that. 7.5?
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. That's fine. That's not a hater number. If you would have said like a 5 or a 4,
well, no, because
I would have been like, okay, that you're being a little bit a hater, you know. But like
I said, I don't hate this movie. It's just there's things in it I don't like, but most of it was a good time. I laughed a little bit more than I thought I was gonna because of just how much the comedy really caught me off guard. There was a lot of good scenes here. The conflict, the emotionalness between Rocket and the High Evolutionary doing a phenomenal fucking job. He was actually a really good actor here. I don't know what happened with Peacemaker. I don't think he gave a performance there, but here he really did his thing. Like there is some things in here that I really did like, and again, it's not the worst thing. It's not like The Flash. It's not like you have Morbius or Black Adam, whatever the fuck. Like it's decent enough to where, yeah, okay, this is good, but again, I don't see it as everyone's bread and butter. 7.5. There you go. They're like perfect way to put it.
I see. For me, it being the least anticipated project of the MCU so far, at least for me, and me watching it and it actually wowing me and taking me by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I will not say it's my bread and butter. I will not say that it's like godly, storytelling.
I only say that because a lot of people were saying that shit.
I seen it on Twitter.
You've seen the hype.
I seen it on Twitter, and I know people were like, "Oh, this is some of James Gunn's best work." And on the contrary, I think the Suicide Squad is some of his best work. But that's just me, and I know we're on two different sides of the spectrum with that.
Talk about that.
Yeah, that'd be a completely different topic for a different episode. If you guys want to hear that, I'm willing to dive deeper into it.
Yeah,
I think that's some of his best work when it comes to action and all this and that. So this one, you can tell that he was trying to go all in with his weirdness, but at the same time, he was still muddled and restrained by the Marvel box. And so with that, I would have to give this movie a solid 8. Solid 8. I think it was better than just good. I don't think it was fantastic. And I know there was a couple snags that keep it away from a 10. That was the music videos, the undermining emotional moments for a gag. That was kind of bad. The comedy itself being very dumb. And I understand, you get laughs off cheap fucking jokes and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I get it. But that's a cheap way out. Open the fucking door. That is the cheapest joke that you could have picked up. And that's even for Marvel standards. That was kind of like, hey, I want to be edgy and different in this one. Let me go ahead and use this F word in this random spot. I will say something that I didn't touch up on that I thought it was really weird, and maybe I'm not alone in this, was the animal humans. I didn't like seeing those on screen either. I thought that was very awkward and weird, and a weird choice to have gone with when it came down to like showing a society. That's his stamp, man. That's his stamp. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was like the weirdest way to go ahead and go about it.
Kind of reminded me of if you can remember the 90s what is that movie? The duck movie? That duck movie. He's also in this one.
Oh, Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck. Yeah. Kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah. But other than that, like I said, this movie was great. Can't say I hated it. You're over here willing to shit on it. You give it a 7. There has to be more pros to it. If you're giving it a 7, that's crazy.
Oh no! I mean, all the emotional stuff. A lot of the comedy was kind of funny, except when it wasn't. Those action pieces you mentioned, a lot of it was really banking on performance, though. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
High Evolutionary did his thing. Rocket did his thing.
Star-Lord.
Especially for just like voice acting, like they managed to pull it together. So yeah, that would be it.
Very good. But let us know what your thoughts out there for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. If you guys seen it, it's out on Disney Plus right now.
Yeah,
get it in right now before you guys cancel your subscriptions.
You can watch it in IMAX if you wanted to.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, I did watch it in IMAX. It was pretty nice. James Gunn came out saying that the theatrical way is better because you get more. You get to see more.
No, I don't.
Yeah, and that's odd because a lot of people say IMAX is like the way to go. Either which way, go watch it on Disney Plus before you guys cancel your subscription. It's getting more expensive out there. Yeah. But with that being said, if there's like I said in the beginning, if there's a movie that you guys want us to review, a topic that we haven't spoken about that you guys want us to talk about on this podcast, any ideas, you guys want to support us in a big way, Josh, let them know where they can let us know.
Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at FilmBros Podcast. We post new episodes are up. You can hit us up there for any news or movies you want us to cover. So go ahead and do all that. Listen to us on the go, wherever you get your podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. That's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music. We're on a bunch of things, so check us out wherever you get them. We're on it, I promise. And if we're not, we'll be there. Buzzsprout, links are in the bios that I just gave you. Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at FilmBros Podcast. Support us in a big way. You get special perks when you do, shout-outs, and things like that. And when it's all said and done, subscribe to our YouTube at FilmBros Podcast.
Yeah. Go watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Don't listen to this hater. We'll talk to you guys on the next one.
Talk to you guys later.